The massive starship, Dominion's Edge, hung in the void like a sleeping beast, its biomechanical hull pulsing with alien energy. Inside the ship's vast arena chamber, Queen Zephyria of the Kethrak Empire sat upon her crystalline throne, her four arms crossed in displeasure. Her serpentine tail coiled and uncoiled behind her as she watched the chaos unfolding before her eyes. The arena floor shook with thunderous footsteps as her prized war beast, a genetically enhanced Tyrannosaurus Rex the size of a small building, thrashed violently against its energy restraints. The creature's roar echoed through the chamber, causing several of her advisors to step back in fear. This T-Rex wasn't just any dinosaur, it had been modified with Kethrak biotechnology, making it nearly invulnerable and absolutely deadly. "Your Majesty," wheezed High Advisor Vexoth, his three eyes blinking rapidly with worry. "The beast has been like this for 3 solar cycles. It refuses to eat, attacks any handler who approaches, and has already killed 2 of our best beast masters." Queen Zephyria's purple skin darkened with anger. Tomorrow was the grand tournament where representatives from a dozen alien species would compete for her favor. The T-Rex was supposed to be the final challenge, a test that would prove once and for all that no species could match the might of the Kethrak Empire. But now her ultimate weapon was completely out of control. "Have you tried the sonic pacifiers?" she hissed, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had conquered 17 star systems. "Yes, Your Majesty. Also the neural dampeners and the biochemical relaxants." "Nothing works. The creature seems to be in some kind of rage state we've never encountered before." The Queen's eyes narrowed as she studied the massive predator. Its enhanced muscles rippled under scales that had been reinforced with living metal. Bioluminescent patches along its spine flashed angry red as it continued to struggle against the energy field that contained it. This beast had cost her empire millions of credits and years of genetic research. She couldn't afford to lose it now. "What about the contestants? Are they still arriving?" "Yes, Your Majesty. The Vorthan delegation brought their champion, a warrior who can bench press a hover tank. The Crystalline Collective sent their most skilled psychic fighter. The Zephyri brought their speed demon who moves faster than most sensors can track." Queen Zephyria nodded, but her attention remained fixed on the T-Rex. Each of these species had been carefully selected because they possessed some trait that made them formidable. The tournament was meant to demonstrate that even the best the galaxy had to offer couldn't overcome Kethrak's superiority. "And the humans?" she asked, almost as an afterthought. Advisor Vexoth consulted his datapad. "They sent someone called Jake Morrison. According to his file, he's a mechanic." The Queen's laugh was cold and sharp. "A mechanic? Not a soldier? Not an enhanced warrior? Just a mechanic?" "Apparently so, Your Majesty. He works on industrial equipment and vehicles. The human delegation said he volunteered when their original champion fell ill." This brought the first smile to Queen Zephyria's face in days. Humans were a relatively new species on the galactic stage, primitive, weak, and laughably unprepared for the realities of space warfare. They had somehow managed to build crude starships and join a few trade agreements, but everyone knew they were bottom feeders in the cosmic hierarchy. "Perfect," she purred. "When the human fails spectacularly against our war beast, it will send a clear message to all the other species about what happens when you underestimate the Kethrak Empire." The T-Rex's roar interrupted her thoughts, louder and more violent than before. The energy restraints flickered under the strain of containing the creature's fury. Several technicians rushed to reinforce the containment field, their movements quick and nervous. "Your Majesty," Vexoth said carefully, "perhaps we should consider postponing the tournament until we can find a way to calm the beast." "Absolutely not," the Queen's voice cracked like a whip. "I have invited representatives from across the galaxy. Word of this tournament has spread to every major power. If we postpone now, it will look like weakness. She rose from her throne, her full 8-foot height casting an imposing shadow. Double the containment field strength. Increase security around the arena, and make sure the human is placed last in the tournament order. I want him to watch all the others fail before he meets his own doom. As if sensing their conversation, the T-Rex suddenly went silent. Its massive head turned toward the observation deck where Queen Zephyria stood. For a moment, Predator and Queen locked eyes across the arena. The creature's pupils dilated as it studied her, and she felt an uncomfortable chill run down her spine. There was something different in the beast's gaze, not just rage, but a kind of calculating intelligence that hadn't been there before. The moment passed as quickly as it came. The T-Rex threw back its head and released another earth-shaking roar before returning to its violent thrashing. But Queen Zephyria couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed in that brief exchange. Hours later, as the Queen reviewed tournament preparations in her private chambers, a soft chime indicated an incoming message. The holographic display showed Captain Thexera of the ship's security force. "Your Majesty, the human representative has arrived. He's different from what we expected." "Different how?" "He's very calm, Your Majesty." "Almost unnervingly so. When we showed him footage of the war beast, he just nodded and asked if he could examine the creature's containment systems." Queen Zephyria frowned. "He wants to examine the containment systems? What kind of warrior studies his prison before entering it?" "That's just it, Your Majesty. He doesn't act like a warrior at all. He carries a toolbox instead of weapons. When we offered him combat gear, he politely declined. He said his own tools would be sufficient." The Queen felt a flicker of uncertainty. In all her years of conquest, she had learned to read opponents. Warriors were predictable. They relied on strength, speed, or cunning. But someone who approached mortal danger with the casual attitude of a maintenance worker? That was something outside her experience. "Where is he now?" "In guest quarters, Your Majesty. He requested access to our technical databases to review the ship's mechanical systems. Said he wanted to understand how everything worked together." This was getting stranger by the minute. "Grant his request, but monitor everything he accesses. I want to know what this human is really up to." "Yes, Your Majesty." As the communication ended, Queen Zephyria found herself staring out at the stars through her chamber's viewport. Tomorrow's tournament had been planned as a demonstration of Kethrock supremacy. The other species would send their finest warriors to face her ultimate weapon, and all would fail. The message would be clear. The Kethrock Empire was not to be challenged. But now she had an uncontrollable war beast and a human mechanic who acted like he was preparing for a routine maintenance job rather than a fight to the death. Something about this combination made her deeply uneasy. The Queen's meditation was interrupted by another alarm from the arena. Through her chamber's communication system, she could hear her technicians shouting orders and warnings. The T-Rex was becoming even more agitated, and the containment field was showing signs of stress. She activated her personal communicator. "Status report. Your Majesty, the war beast's aggression levels are off the charts. It's begun using its enhanced strength in new ways, testing different points of the containment field, looking for weaknesses. Our behavioral analysts think it's learning." Learning. The word sent another chill through the Queen's thoughts. The genetic modifications were supposed to enhance the creature's physical capabilities, not its intelligence. But if the T-Rex was actually studying its prison and planning an escape, increase security protocols. I want armed guards stationed around the arena perimeter, and make sure all contestants are confined to quarters until tomorrow. I don't want any unexpected variables." "Understood, Your Majesty." As Queen Zephyria settled back onto her resting platform, she tried to push away her growing concerns. She had conquered star systems, commanded fleets of warships, and broken the will of entire civilizations. One primitive human and one oversized lizard shouldn't be causing her this much worry. But deep in her mind, a small voice whispered that tomorrow's tournament might not go exactly as planned. And for the first time in years, Queen Zephyria found herself wondering if absolute confidence might actually be a weakness rather than a strength. The stars outside her viewport continued their eternal dance, indifferent to the schemes and fears of the creatures who traveled between them. In a few hours, the tournament would begin, and one way or another, everything would change. The tournament arena buzzed with excitement as representatives from across the galaxy filled the observation decks. Queen Zephyria had spared no expense in creating a spectacle worthy of her empire's reputation. Massive holographic displays showed every angle of the arena floor, while translation devices ensured that every species could follow the commentary in their native language. Jake Morrison sat quietly in the contestants' waiting area, methodically checking the tools in his worn leather kit. While the other competitors performed elaborate warm-up routines or meditated in preparation for battle, the human mechanic simply cleaned his wrench and tested the batteries in his portable scanner. "Human," called Kexthor, the Vorthan champion whose bronze skin gleamed with ceremonial oil. "Do you not prepare for combat? Do you not fear the great beast that awaits us?" Jake looked up with mild curiosity. "Fear doesn't really help with troubleshooting," he said with a slight smile. "Usually just makes you miss the obvious problems." Kexthor flexed muscles that could crush steel. "This is not about problems to fix. This is about proving one's worth through strength and courage." "Everything's about fixing problems," Jake replied, returning his attention to his tools. "Just depends on how you look at it." The Crystalline Collective's representative, a being of living gemstone called Resonance of Victory, chimed in with musical tones that the translator rendered as words. "The human's mental patterns are most unusual. There is no fear, no anticipation of violence, no warrior's bloodlust, only a calm focus on mechanical relationships." Jake nodded toward the crystal being. "Mechanical relationships, biological systems, energy patterns, they all follow rules. Once you understand the rules, most problems have pretty straightforward solutions." The conversations were interrupted as Queen Zephyria's voice echoed through the arena. "Citizens of the galaxy, today you witness the ultimate test of worthiness. Each contestant will face our greatest challenge, a war beast bred and enhanced to be the perfect predator. Only one who proves themselves truly exceptional may earn the respect of the Kethrak Empire." The crowd roared its approval as energy barriers lowered around the arena floor. The massive T-Rex stood in the center of the space, no longer restrained but still radiating barely contained fury. Its enhanced scales gleamed under the arena lights, and its eyes held an intelligence that made even the bravest observers step back from the viewing ports. The first contestant was Velek of the Zephyri, whose species was known for supernatural speed. The insectoid warrior entered the arena as a blur of motion, circling the T-Rex faster than most eyes could follow. The crowd gasped as Velek struck with razor-sharp claws, aiming for pressure points that would have dropped any normal creature. But this was no normal creature. The T-Rex's enhanced nervous system registered the attacks instantly. With a speed that shouldn't have been possible for something so large, the massive predator spun and snapped. Velek's incredible velocity worked against him. He couldn't change direction fast enough to avoid the crushing jaws. The contest was over in seconds. Kexthor was next. The Vorthan champion entered the arena with a war cry that shook the foundations of the ship. His bronze fists, each capable of punching through ship hulls, hammered against the T-Rex's armored hide. For a moment it seemed like brute force might triumph. The beast staggered under the assault. But the genetic modifications had made the creature's bones virtually unbreakable and its muscles capable of generating tremendous force. The T-Rex caught Kexthor's arm in its jaws, and with a casual shake of its head, sent the Vorthan champion flying into the arena wall hard enough to crack the reinforced metal. Resonance of Victory tried a different approach, using psychic powers to attempt mental control over the beast. The crystalline being's form blazed with inner light as it projected waves of calming energy toward the T-Rex. For a brief moment, the creature actually seemed to relax. Then something unexpected happened. Instead of becoming docile, the T-Rex appeared to study its psychic attacker with renewed interest. Its enhanced brain began to adapt to the mental intrusion, learning to filter out the foreign thoughts. Within minutes, the creature had developed a resistance that turned the psychic attack back on its source. Resonance of Victory's crystalline form cracked under the psychic backlash. One by one, the greatest warriors and champions from across the galaxy faced the war beast. Each brought their species' finest abilities: strength, speed, psychic powers, advanced technology, exotic weapons, and each was defeated with an efficiency that bordered on contempt. Queen Zephyria watched from her throne with growing satisfaction. The tournament was proceeding exactly as planned. Each failure reinforced the message that Kethrak genetic engineering had created something beyond the reach of any known species. "And now," she announced as the last conventional warrior was carried from the arena, "we come to our final contestant, Jake Morrison of the human species, a mechanic who believes he can succeed where warriors have failed." The crowd's reaction was mixed. Some species laughed at the apparent absurdity. Others watched with curious silence, wondering what surprise the humans might have prepared. Jake walked into the arena carrying only his toolbox, moving with the unhurried gait of someone arriving for a routine job. The T-Rex turned its massive head toward this new potential victim. For several long seconds, predator and human simply looked at each other across the arena floor. The crowd fell silent, waiting for the charge that would end this contest as quickly as the others. But Jake didn't assume a fighting stance or reach for a weapon. Instead, he walked calmly toward the war beast, his eyes focused not on its teeth or claws, but on the subtle details of its posture and movement. "Easy there, big guy," he said in a conversational tone, setting his toolbox down just outside what most would consider the creature's attack range. "I can see you're having some problems." The T-Rex tilted its head, momentarily confused by this unprecedented behavior. Every other contestant had either attacked immediately or prepared for defense. This small creature was acting like it belonged in the arena, like it had every right to be there. Jake opened his toolbox and pulled out a handheld scanner, the kind used to diagnose problems with industrial machinery. He aimed it at the T-Rex and studied the readout with professional interest. "Thought so," he muttered. "Your neural interfaces are running hot, aren't they? That's why you've been so aggressive. The biomechanical implants aren't properly integrated with your nervous system." Queen Zephyria leaned forward on her throne, her confidence beginning to waver. The human was talking to her war beast like it was a malfunctioning engine rather than a perfect killing machine. Jake took a step closer, moving with deliberate calm. "See, the problem with adding technology to biology is that they operate on different principles. Tech wants clean signals and predictable responses. Biology is all about adaptation and chaos. When you force them together without proper integration," he gestured toward the creature's glowing implants, "you get feedback loops, neural stress, and a whole lot of pain." The T-Rex had stopped moving entirely, its massive head lowered as it watched this strange little being who showed no fear, no aggression, just professional concern. "The good news is it's fixable," Jake continued, reaching slowly into his toolbox. "Just need to adjust the interface protocols to work with your brain instead of against it." Jake pulled out a small device that looked remarkably unremarkable, just a simple interface tool that any mechanic might use to adjust computer settings. But as he approached the towering predator, something extraordinary happened. The T-Rex, This ultimate weapon that had just defeated the galaxy's greatest warriors slowly lowered its massive head toward the human. The arena fell into complete silence. Even Queen Zephyria found herself holding her breath as she watched this impossible scene unfold. "That's it," Jake said softly, reaching up to touch one of the bioluminescent patches along the creature's neck. His scanner had identified these as the primary neural interface points. "I know it hurts. We're going to fix that." The moment Jake's hand made contact with the creature's skin, everything changed. The T-Rex's eyes, which had burned with constant fury and pain, suddenly showed clarity for the first time in months. The creature's breathing slowed from aggressive pants to deep, relaxed sighs. Jake worked with practiced efficiency. His interface tool connecting to the biomechanical implants through access ports that the Kethrak engineers had never intended for external use. His scanner provided real-time feedback as he began adjusting the neural integration protocols. "See? Your brain is amazing," Jake explained to the T-Rex as he worked, his voice carrying the same tone he might use when talking to a nervous pet. "It's been trying to adapt to all this foreign hardware, but the hardware wasn't designed to adapt back. It's like trying to use a hammer as a screwdriver. Technically possible, but it's going to hurt the whole time." Queen Zephyria finally found her voice. "What are you doing? This is supposed to be a combat trial." Jake looked up at her observation deck with mild surprise. "Oh, this is combat. Just not the kind you were expecting." He returned his attention to the T-Rex. "Sometimes the best way to defeat a problem is to solve it instead of fighting it." His fingers danced across the interface tool's controls, making minute adjustments to harmonize the technological implants with the creature's biological systems. Decades of experience fixing complex machinery had taught him to see patterns that others missed, to understand how different systems could work together instead of against each other. The changes were immediate and dramatic. The angry red glow of the T-Rex's biomechanical patches shifted to a calm blue. The creature's posture relaxed as neural stress that had been building for months finally eased. For the first time since its enhancement, the war beast was comfortable in its own skin. "There we go," Jake said with satisfaction, patting the creature's snout like he might pet a friendly dog. The T-Rex responded by gently nuzzling against his hand, its earlier aggression completely gone. "How's that feel, big guy?" The transformation was so complete that many observers thought they were witnessing some kind of illusion. The ultimate killing machine, bred and enhanced to be unstoppable, had become as docile as a house cat under the touch of a human mechanic. But Jake wasn't finished. He had noticed something else during his diagnostic scan, something that the Kethrak engineers had missed entirely. "You know," he said, still addressing the T-Rex but speaking loud enough for his voice to carry to the observation decks, "this enhancement setup has way more potential than whoever designed it realized. They were so focused on making you aggressive that they never explored what else these systems could do." He made a few more adjustments to his interface tool, and suddenly the arena filled with a sound that no one had ever heard before. The T-Rex was purring. Not like a cat, but like a massive engine running in perfect harmony. The biomechanical implants, now properly integrated with the creature's nervous system, were functioning as they had been truly intended to. Enhanced strength, enhanced speed, enhanced intelligence, Jake listed off as he continued his work. But also enhanced empathy, enhanced social awareness, enhanced problem-solving ability. You didn't create a weapon, you created a person. A really big, really powerful person who's been in constant pain because nobody bothered to set up the systems properly. Queen Zephyria felt the arena floor shifting beneath her feet. Not literally, but everything she thought she understood about power and dominance was crumbling. Her ultimate weapon hadn't been defeated through superior force. It had been transformed through understanding and compassion. "This is impossible," she whispered. Jake heard her somehow, even across the vast arena. "Not impossible. just different from what you expected. He straightened up, his work complete. Humans have a saying, "To a hammer, every problem looks like a nail." You saw a creature that needed to be controlled, so you tried to control it. I saw a creature that needed to be understood, so I tried to understand it. The T-Rex straightened to its full, impressive height, but there was no aggression in its posture now. Instead, it looked around the arena with curious, intelligent eyes, seeing its surroundings clearly for the first time. When its gaze fell on Queen Zephyria, she saw not fury or submission, but something far more unsettling: disappointment. "Your Majesty," Jake called up to her observation deck, "your creature would like to have a word with you." The T-Rex moved toward the observation area with fluid grace, its enhanced muscles working in perfect harmony. When it reached the reinforced viewing port, it lowered its head to bring its eyes level with the Queen's. For a long moment, enhanced Predator and Galactic Empress simply looked at each other. When the T-Rex finally spoke, and everyone was shocked to discover it could speak, its voice was deep and resonant, carrying the weight of newfound self-awareness. "Why?" it asked simply. Queen Zephyria found herself unable to answer. How could she explain that she had seen the creature as nothing more than a tool for demonstrating power? How could she justify the months of pain and confusion she had inflicted through ignorance and arrogance? Jake climbed onto the T-Rex's neck, settling comfortably between two of the biomechanical interface patches. "If it helps," he said to the Queen, "I don't think malice was involved. Just a fundamental misunderstanding about what strength actually means." He patted the creature's neck gently. "Real strength isn't about dominating others. It's about understanding yourself and your place in the larger system. It's about solving problems instead of creating them. It's about building connections instead of barriers." The crowd in the observation decks had fallen completely silent. Representatives from dozens of species watched as a simple human mechanic rode a genetically enhanced T-Rex like an old friend, having accomplished something that their greatest warriors couldn't even imagine. "The tournament," Queen Zephyria said weakly. "Oh, that's over," Jake replied cheerfully. "I won, I guess, though it wasn't really a competition, more like a consultation call." He looked around at all the species representatives. "Your Majesty, I think you might want to reconsider your approach to interspecies relations. Cooperation tends to work better than intimidation in the long run." The T-Rex rumbled its agreement, the sound vibrating through the arena's structure. The creature that had been created as a symbol of Kethrak dominance had become something else entirely, a symbol of what was possible when different species worked together with understanding and respect. Queen Zephyria realized that her plans for galactic dominance had just been quietly, thoroughly, and irreversibly dismantled by a human with a toolbox and a different way of seeing problems. The most powerful weapon in her arsenal was now friends with the most unlikely warrior in the galaxy, and somehow, watching Jake Morrison scratch behind the ears of a purring T-Rex while discussing mechanical maintenance techniques, she began to think that maybe this was a much better outcome than what she had originally planned. The stars outside continued their eternal dance, but inside the arena everything had indeed shifted. Not through conquest or domination, but through the simple human realization that every problem, no matter how large or frightening, was just waiting for someone to understand it properly. The age of Kethrak supremacy was over. The age of galactic cooperation, it seemed, was just beginning. And it had all started with one human mechanic who treated a war beast like a friend who needed help.